es él.
Juliana Clark. The bright colors attracted me to it. I like to get around, so it just kind of called out to me, and just carrying food. And I don't know, it's just everything I love: biking, food, bright colors.
Where's my purchase? Do you know who this is? That's me. I play violin, like the devil.
Claudio was working in another taller, in a family taller, and he was not signing his own work. And it became very evident to me, his work was very distinctive to me. It had a signature on it without having a signature on it.
Siento de todos los trabajos, lo que hacía mi padre, yo hacía el 80% o 70% ahí. Porque mi padre era profesor y se ocupaba más. Y para vender, para nuestra necesidad, que éramos varios hermanos, para la familia de mi padre y de nosotros. Pero llegó un lapso donde que conseguí mi pareja. Y en ese momento que yo tenía que, por necesidad, buscarme otra habitación y todo, en ese, ahora pienso, ahora aquí vendo, ¿cómo hago? Entonces, ahí estaba ya mi hermano mayor, Nicario, estaba ya en Lima, viviendo, y me dice, Claudio, vende mis trabajos. Y ya, en ese yo vendía así nomás, sin firma, sin nada. Ahí se percata la señora Patricia. Y me dice que tus trabajos están otra persona firmando, pero no me decía quién. Pues en la revista que veo están mis trabajos y nombre de mi hermano, tampoco no le digo. Ahí es lo que la señora Patricia me hace despertar. Pon tu firma. Entonces, ahí empecé yo también propiamente recién a valorar mis obras, si no, no.
So I simply approached him and said, you know, I'm a bit confused by the things that I have bought from this taller, and I'm not sure who made what, but I think you should come to the United States and we should do a series of shows. Well, that was in 1996, and that's precisely what we did. And that was the exposure that he needed, I think, to the marketplace. And so we did a show here in Santa Fe, we did a show in Albuquerque, and we did Bazaar del Mundo in San Diego. And that was just, as far as I'm concerned, that was just a big turning point.
La señora Patricia es como un ángel que me abrió las puertas para las conexiones de diferentes estados aquí en Estados Unidos. Sin la ayuda, sin la conexión, no se puede en su país, pero puedes hacerlo muy lento, les podían pasar años.
He was stunningly talented, and it just showed all over the place, just the way he would make a small figure. That was it.
For a lot of folk art dealers, this is just stuff. Patricia understands it's not just stuff. This is work that comes out of years and years and generations of families working together, making things for their own communities, and now for a wider world as well.
This is Patricia. Nice to meet you. I love your earrings. They're fun.
Sometimes she can be like an invisible force. And I think that her work over the years has really been part of and helped to create a long-standing interest in folk art from Latin America in Santa Fe. And so the market almost is like an expansion of what she as one person can do.
Since my childhood had always been close to the Mexican border, and I just thought, well, I have so much curiosity about this place, I must go. I got to Tasco, Guerrero, about 5 o'clock one evening, and it was just at that time so peaceful, so calm, so fascinating. You could see the history of this place dripping from the walls. It just was so obvious. My passion for Mexican folk art just would not leave me alone. So I said, I will start a business. Well, I began this business with $1,000. I had a friend who traded, so I would buy a head of cattle and he would go up and trade it for costuming. This was such a wild and crazy thing to do, but it felt right to me, and so that's what I did. I had a classmate from Harvard, and he bought a Chamula Indian wedding dress from me, and he sold it to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and that brought a big price. And then from there on, I began working in Santa Fe with different stores, and so rather rapidly things began to happen, and I kept on taking chances, and most of them have worked.
Look at the detail of the stitching on the fallen overall panel, and the stitching on the inside leg. Oh, that's adorable. I'm her only beneficiary and her only natural child. So maybe 10 years ago, we started thinking about what we were going to do about my mother's business, Que Tenga Buena Mano. And we even explored for a while the idea of selling the business to somebody who would be able to bring the same energy and intelligence to it as she has brought. And we actually entertained some relationships along those lines, and they didn't pan out. And it's sort of common knowledge that giving up a business you created and transferring it to another owner is really, really difficult. It may be somewhat manageable from a legal standpoint, but it's really hard emotionally. And we never could find somebody who brought the same intensity to my mother's work as she has brought to it. And during that process, I began to really think about, what is this thing called Que Tenga Buena Mano, and who is my mother in relation to this business? And I started to have an awareness that Que Tenga Buena Mano and Patricia Lafarge were greater than the sum of its parts. That it wasn't just a collection, an extensive collection of textiles, jewelry, ceramics, tin work, wood carvings, you name it. It wasn't just those things, and it wasn't just my mother's many years of experience acquiring those things, but somehow it was more than that. Not least, it was more than that because of the many, many relationships my mother has developed with artisans over the years and their families.
Well, I think you and I decided that a future should grow out of a present. It's that simple. That there was something to pass on. I think just to sell off all the merchandise and then call it a day would be kind of sad, because these things have a life. And they deserve to go on living.
Esta es con vestimenta típica del Perú y se recuerda allá, ¿no?
Folk art in this day and age is not something that is really recognized by the public, especially because everything is mass produced and everything is on a screen now. So the foundation is working to keep the message of folk art alive in today's technological world, and that's really important, especially for younger people and people, that don't have an appreciation for different cultures.
Folk art really doesn't have any boundaries or nationalities, and it transcends the borders, and I think that reminds people that in their own daily lives that can be an important part of being human, and it speaks to their humanity.
Folk art is as important as fresh water in the sense that it is a mechanism for relaying our cultural heritage from one generation to another. literally like a hand-to-hand relay of beliefs and values.
The language of folk art is something that is really accessible. And it's about the things that are the most important to us. That's the basic aspect of folk art. Strength and the power of communicating basic human values. What are our traditions? What are the things that we care about the most? I think having the ability to communicate about these things is really important, especially as we get more technologically complex and more distracted by superficial things.
Este es el mundo de panadería, de pastelería.